What's up, guys? You're watching The Morning Score, your top of day fix for professional and for college sports and for gaming. We have a very special guest, Lance Edwards, who, by the way, now, guys, in Los Angeles, we have, I would say, a lot of cyclists. Well, he's going to set the record straight. We have what I think are a lot of cyclists on the road, but this guy is literally the person who wrote the book on cycling. Like, Lance used to be a star football player, and now he is someone who cycles and has cycled almost every single day for the past X amount of years. I'm not going to tell you what he told me, because I don't want to tell his age. But Lance, tell us a little bit about your cycling experience and how you turned from a football player to someone who lives the lifestyle of a cyclist.
Well, I've cycled since I was a tiny little kid. My parents were very strict. They wouldn't let me get my driver's license. So if I wanted to go somewhere, it was my bicycle. And it was basically, cycling was freedom. If I wanted to go somewhere, I got on my bike and went. And sometimes, just to get away from everything, I would just cycle until I couldn't do it anymore. And I started cycling in Chicago for transportation, actually, which is a very difficult place to do it in the wintertime, trying to cycle through 2 feet of snow.
How does that work?
But when I moved out here, at first I looked at getting a car, I looked at getting a motorcycle, and none of it really made sense to me. And when I got a bicycle, it was just like, it was perfect. Because LA is the best place to ride a bicycle. You have the mountains, you have the ocean. In between, it's relatively flat. The weather is beautiful all the time. The drivers are insane, but that's true of every place you go on the planet. And so I just kind of adopted it as a lifestyle. I don't own a car. I haven't owned a car for like 25 years.
Wow.
And I do everything on my bike. The only time I use a car is if I have to travel a long distance. And it saved my life in a lot of ways. When I played football, I injured my knees, and cycling kept all the muscles around my knee really strong so I could keep walking and stuff. And it's my sport and it's my lifestyle. So.
Trevor, I hear you getting ready to...
I'm with Lance in the fact that I used to ride my bike everywhere in Chicago, and yeah, when it's like 10 degrees and in the city, like almost 20 degrees below zero with the windshield.
Oh yeah.
It's not a fun place.
It's not that practical.
You guys are crazy. Just get a cab. You're in Chicago.
You got to be a little crazy to cycle all the time. But.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, how is it in LA? Because you said the drivers are crazy, but it does seem like LA makes more of an effort, or at least tries, with cyclists. Like there's a lot of bike lanes, this and that, but. Is that true, or are drivers just still...
It's not, actually. Surprisingly, Los Angeles and California in general is not very cycling friendly. LA especially, they haven't changed the infrastructure for probably 25, 30 years as far as putting in more bike lanes. The thing people don't know about bike lanes is it's not illegal for cars to be in the bike lane. So,
wait, it's not illegal for cars to be...
It's not, no.
Okay. I think I knew that because I'm always in the bike lane with my car.
And what's happened over the years is as the cycling population grows, the conflict between motorists and cyclists becomes worse and worse because there's more cyclists on the road. New cyclists don't really know the rules of the road. Motorists think that we don't have the right to be on the street, that we don't have the same rights as them, and what really is true is that we have exactly the same rights and we have to obey the same laws that they do. The other thing is that the rules of the road, the laws of the road are built for cars, they're not built for cyclists. So sometimes as a cyclist, if you're obeying the laws built for cars, you're actually endangering your own life. So when we, run stop signs or whatever, it's not always because we're just hoodlums, it's because that's the way we have to ride.
Wait, should a cyclist stop at a four-way stop? Because I get to four-way stops and cyclists will coast right through them. I'm like, dude, you better stop at the stop sign.
Yeah.
Well, tell us.
I mean, truthfully, I always stop for lights.
Okay.
I don't always stop for stop signs. Okay. I always check and see what the traffic is, but it's like cycling is a game played with velocity and momentum. So basically the law says you have to stop at stop signs, you have to stop at crosswalks and walk your bike across. If I did that, I'd never get anywhere.
Gotcha. Right.
And so it's like I said, the laws are built for cars, they're not built for cyclists. Cyclists are an afterthought.
Now I have a question about the laws, and then we can maybe get to some fun stuff.
Okay.
Are cyclists supposed to ride single file?
Most of the time, yes.
Because that's my only problem with it.
The law also states that a single cyclist can take up the whole lane. That's the law.
Wait.
The other part of the law is that cars have to give a cyclist 3 feet leeway. That's also the law.
Wait, so a cyclist can ride in the same lane as the car, technically?
Well, we can always ride in the same lane as the car. Technically, a cyclist is supposed to ride between the curb or the parked cars and traffic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, and in traffic, when there's a lot of traffic, you're supposed to ride single file. But you can also take up the whole lane as a cyclist.
See, how does that fly though? Because it's like, I mean, that just seems like a
people hate us.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of those people that maybe wanted to throw something out the car window at a cyclist.
That's happened to me many
I
times.
have not done it, for the record, I have not. But I feel like that's a safety issue because I'm in my car driving 45, obeying the speed limits. Like, I come behind a cyclist who's maybe going, what, 12 miles an hour?
Probably, if they're fit.
You know, if there was a car driving 12 miles an hour in front of me and a cop came up behind it, he'd probably stop the car and be like, why are you going so slow? So I just feel like there's two sides to that it's almost a danger that the cyclists bring upon themselves to ride in that lane.
Well, you know, where are we supposed to ride?
In the bike lane.
There aren't always bike lanes.
There should be. That's
There
what I'm
aren't,
saying.
though.
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't though.
But
And
yeah,
so
there should
it's
be.
like
I don't
the
understand
rule
why
that
there's
we
not.
can take up the whole lane is for our safety. Because if we get squeezed over to the side, then people don't see us. That's the biggest problem with cycling is people don't see you.
Yeah.
And if you kill someone on a bicycle, all you have to say is, I didn't see him, and you're off the hook.
Wow.
I knew 6 people that have been killed by motorists. Not one of those drivers was ever even charged with a traffic violation.
Dang.
What?
It's licensed to kill.
That's not good.
That's a little extreme.
Well,
It
it
is.
is extreme. So we're gonna make it a little bit more lighthearted now. But this is good though because I mean a lot of people are not educated on what cyclists
Rules
go
of the
through
road.
or the rules of the road. So this is good. Before we let you go, Lance, we're gonna do a speed round where we ask you a series of questions, and you have 2 minutes to answer all of these questions, and you're being timed.
Plenty of time.
Okay, and we're gonna go in order. So Trevor, you're gonna take the first question.
Oh,
We'll go
okay,
to
cool.
Okay, so let me get the timer ready. Okay, ready, set, go.
All right, Lance, what are the top races that should be on everyone's schedule for biking this season?
Okay, this is the heart of the cycling season starting next weekend. There's the Tour of California, which is the biggest race in North America. It's not the best race in North America, but it is the biggest. It gets the best talent from all over the world, the best teams. One of the great things about cycling is you get to see the landscape, and California has some of the most breathtaking landscapes on the planet. There's also 2 other American races you should know about, the Tour of Utah and the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, which used to be called the Tour of Colorado. The great thing about the Tour of Colorado is the Europeans get hammered in that race because the Alps only go up to about maybe 8,000 to 9,000 feet. The Rockies go up to 12,000 feet. When the Europeans come over here, if they don't train in that altitude for 2 weeks, they get hammered by it. The Tour of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge in Colorado, they'll do days where they do 150 miles and 10,000 feet of climbing in one day. It's brutal.
Okay.
The other races you should know about is the 3 Grand Tours. The Tour of Italy starts next weekend. The Tour de France starts the 1st of July, and then the Tour of Spain starts in September. Those are the big ones.
Okay, 3 things, Lance, that all beginner cyclists should know.
Okay, there's 2 kinds of cyclists to me. There's a sport cyclist, and there's what I call the urban cyclist or the transportation cyclist. What's true for both is you need to get the right bike. You need to invest a certain amount of money. You need to get a good fit on the bike. It needs to work well. It needs to be a certain lightness so that you're going to enjoy yourself. For sports cyclists, my advice is don't spend too much money. Get an entry-level bike. Make sure it's fitted correctly. For an urban cyclist, the mistake is usually, I'm going to buy a $100 bike and see if I like it. $100 bikes are super heavy, and if you ride them very often, they fall apart, and you're going to hate it. The other advice for everybody is always wear a helmet. It doesn't take much to crack your egg, and if you crack your egg, you're probably going to be dead. And with cycling, there's an old saying, it's like, it's not if, it's when and how bad. So you are going to crash, and you want to be protected. The third thing everybody should know is that it is the best way to see any place on the planet. It's the best way. It's like, You're out in the air, you can hear everything, you can feel everything, you can see everything. You're going fast enough that you can cover a certain amount of territory, but you're not going so fast that you miss everything.
I like that.
All right, I'm going to ask the controversial question we've all been waiting for. Lance Armstrong, good or bad for the sport, and why?
Well, you know, Armstrong is, he's a two-edged sword. Number one, because of Lance Armstrong, millions and millions of Americans were introduced to the sport. Some of them left because of the controversy, but a lot of them stayed. A lot of people started riding bikes, and they didn't quit just because Armstrong was using drugs. The other side of that is people look at the sport and go, oh, it's a bunch of cheaters. But at the same time, that's kind of true of every professional sport. And what I was telling Erica was, I'm not really proud of this, but it's true. Cyclists kind of invented cheating. It's like the guy who won the first Tour de France was eliminated for cheating the third Tour de France. It's just been, it's such a hard event. Cycling is so hard that everybody's always looking for an edge. And cycling has been at the forefront of cheating from the very beginning.
So wouldn't you think, though, that they would change the sport so people can compete without cheating? Like that messes with my whole definition of sport.
They're working on it, and they've always been fighting it since the very beginning. But what you're in is a battle between the innovators in cheating and the people trying to figure out how to stop it. And that's true of every sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah, right now cycling is at a point where it's probably 90% clean. So when you watch a race, you're pretty assured that, you know, it's an even playing field. When Armstrong was racing, you had a choice. You either used drugs or you didn't have a career. And that was the truth. Even now, people are going to get mad at me for this, but even greats like Eddie Merckx, who is considered the greatest cyclist of all time, I imagine he was using some sort of drugs too. One of his teammates was climbing the Tour, and he died of a heart attack, and they found amphetamines in his pocket. And that was back in the 70s. So this has been going on forever.
Wow.
That's so crazy to me that people would put their bodies through that.
Well, I mean.
Well, look at what football players go through. I mean, it's like they know the risk.
Yeah.
You know, they're like warriors.
Yeah.
They get into the arena, they know the risk, and they figure it's worth it.
Honestly, Lance, we have so much more that we want to learn about cycling because it's really interesting, and I think largely people are pretty much uneducated about it. I mean, I know that's a blanket statement, but for the most part, I think that's a hidden sport that no one really talks about. So we're going to definitely have you back on so we can delve some more into not just Lance, but EPO and doping. And as the cycling season ramps up, we want to have you come on and give us more analysis on your takes on the season.
I'd love to. It's the heart of the season now, and it's like the thing about cycling is, if you don't do it, it's very hard to understand. You watch a race and it looks like, oh, these guys are just out for a Sunday ride, but they're actually going 25 miles an hour on a bicycle, and it's like, it's inhuman what they do.
Seriously.
You know what's crazy about it for me, one of the things is that it's one of the sports, it probably isn't now that we're talking about it, but in my mind, it's something that you could do at the gym. I get you don't get the landscape, you don't get that, but there are very few sports that you could simulate almost the same to prepare the same way that you would then go outside. You know what I mean?
You can train in the gym and improve your fitness, but the difference between what you do in a spin class and what you do on the street is night and day.
Yeah,
I've taken a lot of, I've always started people riding, and I've taken a few people that were like, oh, you know, I'm the champion of my spin class, and I take them out on the trail or on the street, and they're like, oh my God, this is so much harder.
Yeah, so guys out there, spin class and cycling out in the open terrain is not the same. Motorists, stay in your lane, be nice to cyclists, and catch some good races coming up soon. And we're going to definitely have Lance back on the Morning Score panel. We're all family. Come to the Rivalry Sports Bar, 6311 Wilshire Boulevard in Miracle Mile in Los Angeles, California. We all hang out here. We'd love to drink with you guys, have some happy hour nachos with you guys. And until next time, thanks for watching the Morning Score.